Broccolis with Hats, Part 2. Innsmouth was a dumb name for a villain, anyway. By Cheerios. Read by My Lost and Found. Summary. You sank an entire ship, Midoriya. Are you sure that was me? I think I'd remember something like that. Headlines today. Vigilante Stain disappears from the streets. Stain supporters are furious at the new development. They were tracked down not long after they finished their activities and brought into the station while they waited for their mentors. Well, I'm glad none of you are injured, Manuel began, disapproval radiating from his body. Running off was incredibly irresponsible of you, Tenya. What would I have told your parents if you ran into Stain? Ida had to be dreaming. No way was he actually about to get away with murder. Of course, he knew, technically, that there was no way they could know it was him, Todoroki and Midoriya, that did it. Not only was the idea of high schoolers killing a dangerous vigilante laughable, but none of them looked particularly violent enough. But still, I am sorry for the inconvenience, he said instead, feeling a little cloudy and still distant. Midoriya, all sunshines and rainbows again. How was Ida ever fooled? Really? Smiled sheepishly at his mentor, Gran Torino. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking. That's right, you weren't, the short man said scathingly, reaching up to grab Midoriya's ear and drag him out of the door. And since you aren't injured, we're gonna train even harder now. Todoroki, who'd been quiet and content enough at his spot by Midoriya's side, glared daggers into the pro's head, reaching over to clasp hands with their shorter classmate, pulling him back a little too roughly. Midoriya didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, he just killed someone. Ida could feel another headache approaching. Actually, all three of you did everything wrong tonight. Fuck! Todoroki grimaced. Midoriya lowered his head, and Ida wiped at his eyes. If looks could kill, kill. Then Aizawa's glare alone would have sent the three into an early grave. Apparently, not only was Stain spotted tonight. Todoroki had to bite the inside of his cheek, glancing to the side. But someone reported his knives and scarves being spotted in an alleyway covered in his blood. The teacher sighed, but there was a hint of concern in his tone. You three could have been killed. Stain isn't a joke, and someone who is strong enough to take him down tonight. You're ridiculously lucky. Ida could feel his life force being drained when he noticed that he was in the perfect position to catch Midoriya's small, pleased grin before it disappeared. They're literally heroes in training, he says, like he hadn't hidden a body for his friends. Well, we're fine. Todoroki huffed, expression twitching just slightly in cool annoyance. So can we get back to our internships? Manuel sighed. About that. You three are spending the rest of your internships at UA with a few of your other classmates, Aizawa explained. Wait, why? Midoriya asked. Ida would have had to return regardless, Manuel explained. Ida's brow furrowed in confusion. I'm stationed at Hosu, and it's way too dangerous for a high schooler. I'm considering sending my work-study kids back too. I don't know about you two, though. He glanced at Todoroki and Midoriya. Aizawa rubbed his eyes, clearly exhausted. Endeavor is the only one that's been able to critically wound the Nomu all night, so while we're doing damage control, he needs to stay nearby in case another attack happens. Todoroki rolled his eyes, but nodded and settled back into his seat. So then why am I getting picked up by the old man? You aren't. Aizawa bit back, not liking his tone. I'm taking you three with me to get some of your other classmates, because clearly you're all incapable of staying out of trouble. Midori wouldn't lie. He felt a little targeted when that last bit seemed a little too directed at him. But I'm not that close to Hosu for my internship, he wondered. Why can't I go back? Aizawa's flat stare felt painfully accusing. Because you're the one that can't leave things alone, problem child. Who are we getting? Ida asked, trying to avoid looking at Midoriya's pout, because apparently it can convince people to let him get away with murder. And while he didn't realize it at the time, Aizawa was also avoiding making direct eye contact with Midoriya. Maybe the teacher just had a sixth sense for people like him, who bent reality just because it was fun. Asui Suyu. His eye twitched. According to Selkie, there was a drug cartel going on near the site for her internship, and they want her off the ship before they go in for real. You three are going to come with me. Stand off to the side and out of the pro's way, and sit quietly in the car on our way back to the school. Later, Aizawa would reflect on that moment and remember Ida's face seemed uncharacteristically sympathetic and resigned. Aizawa boarded the ship, leaving his students on the small boat they'd used to get there. He felt confident that they wouldn't be able to easily get in and out. Well, as soon as he finished the paperwork. Apparently Selkie was even more of a stickler for rules than he was the last time they met. Did he really need to cross-reference her performance on paper with what he'd seen in class? This would take forever. Midoriya! What on earth was that? Ida screamed, hearing the splashes as villains fell into the water around them. Midoriya paused, lowering the harpoon from where he'd been aiming it. Todoroki, whose mouth had been parted slightly in shock, squinted at his friend. That's literally a ship. An innocent ship. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Midoriya said with the same blank smile that sent shivers up Ida's spine. You sunk an entire ship, Midoriya! Ida yelled, hands chopping through the air violently and panicked. He literally just murdered people! No warning! Midoriya glanced over, looking unfairly confused for someone who committed murder for the second time in less than 2 days. Are you sure that was me? I think I'd remember something like that. Midoriya. Todoroki said. How was he calm? Ida was having a fucking ulcer. It happened less than 10 minutes ago. I watched you fire a harpoon into the captain's face! Ida floundered. Midoriya recoiled. Well, that sounds dangerous. Even Todoroki had to admit that this one was a little ridiculous. Midoriya had waited until Aizawa had disappeared into the ship and then immediately overrode the motor, sending them speeding directly towards 2 large rocks where they spotted a boat. Then, for whatever reason, Midoriya began firing harpoons into the ship. Aizawa-sensei left us alone for 2 minutes, Midoriya! 2 minutes! Well, that was an incredibly short-sighted of him, Midoriya replied, leaning over the side to get a better look at, was that an octopus man? Todoroki curled a fist into the back of Midoriya's shirt. Careful, he might fall over the side. Ida's mouth gaped, feeling so much older than he was. Todoroki, Midoriya just murdered at least 20 people. And he almost fell, Todoroki countered. Ida felt like he might be close to hyperventilating. This had to be some kind of fever dream. No way it was Midoriya murdering people. No way it was Todoroki, the son of the number 2 hero, helping him. No way Ida was okay with this. He slid down the side of the boat, sitting in. Oh, God. Midoriya, why is the boat red and sticky? He asked, almost afraid of the answer, but he needed to know. Todoroki looked over as well, moderately concerned. Would you believe it's strawberry milkshake? Midoriya asked with a faint smile. No! Ida replied, near hysterical. I wouldn't believe that. Melted candy? Todoroki frowned. Midoriya, Aizawa refused to buy us candy earlier. Boat nectar? Midoriya asked, brows scrunched slightly. Probably because boat nectar wasn't a thing! No, Midoriya! Some of Endeavor's tears. Todoroki's eyes sparkled. Really? Tell me the truth, Midoriya. Midoriya pulled down his sleeve, revealing a hole in his arm, leaking blood onto the floor of the boat. I got impaled. Midoriya! Ida tore off a strip of Todoroki's hoodie and wrapped his friend's arm. Why? Todoroki ventured hesitantly. Why did you do this? Oh, they're the ones with the drug cartel Sensei was talking about, Midori replied offhandedly. Ida paled in equal parts of relief and horror. Why didn't you tell us that before? You didn't want to listen, Midoriya said tearfully, sounding genuinely upset that Ida hadn't stopped to listen to his explanation. Apologize, Todoroki mouthed. No, he was not going to. I am sorry, Midoriya. Ida reluctantly bit out once he got a full face of puppy eyes. Aw, Ida, Midoriya smiled. Did you hear that? Hear what? Todoroki asked. That's the sound of forgiveness. That's the sound of people drowning, Midoriya, Ida corrected. His friend nodded. Exactly. Screaming, and then silence. Todoroki let out a reluctant chuckle, so quiet it was nearly missed over the sound of people dying in the ocean. We should probably get back before Aizawa notices we're gone, Midoriya chirped, sounding very cheerful now that they'd made up. How the fuck did you get impaled?